Well, welcome back to Life on Tirzepatide. What if one of the main ways Tirzepatide works is also the thing nobody is fully talking about? Today, we're going to be talking about slowing gastric emptying. We hear that it helps with weight loss. We hear that it controls blood sugar. But what does it really mean for the body, especially for inflammation? And more specifically, if you're someone like me who deals with proctitis flare-ups from time to time, could slowing gastric emptying actually give the colon a chance to calm down and heal? Or could it create new problems like constipation and irritation? Today, we're not guessing. We're not hyping. We're digging into the research. I'm not a doctor. Remember, I'm not a health coach. I'm just someone who is on Tirzepatide, who believes in understanding what's happening inside my body, and I'm sharing that process with a community of people who are trying to do the same. This channel is about truth. It's about learning together. It's about asking better questions. If you find value in the content that breaks down the science in a real, understandable way, hit that like button. It tells me that this kind of information is deep and it matters. And if you want to follow the journey, not from a guru, but from someone living it, researching it alongside you, because education is everything at the end of the day. And the more we learn, the better equipped we are during the processes of taking Tirzepatide or whatever we do in life. Consider hitting that subscribe button and join the community. If you're ready, let's get into learning a little bit more about gastric emptying and the pros and cons behind it. Today, I want to talk about 10 things, just 10 simple slides that build on each one that follows. And I want to research and I want to talk about what I'm learning about this medicine, Tirzepatide, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad. The truth is, I've been on it for almost 2 months now, and I'm starting to learn a lot about it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I said, I have good days, I have bad days. Last night, I was sitting on the couch. I ate a pretzel, had some mustard with it, thought it was a simple, bland food that I could just enjoy. And sure enough, an onset of side effects occurred. And one of those side effects that you hear me talk about often on this channel is nausea. I was extremely nauseous. So, I asked my son, I said, hey, would you mind, running into my bathroom and grabbing my nausea medicine? And sure enough, he did. And I took it. And within about 20, 30 minutes, the nausea subsided. So I want to know, and I want to teach this community everything that I'm learning. Of course, everything is factual based. I'm not going to hype you up. I'm not going to share things with you that are not truth. And I hope you come along for the journey. So today, let's start it off with what Tirzepatide is really known for. And the first thing I want to talk about is slowing gastric emptying. What does that actually mean? So on the screen here, you're going to see a couple bulletins. Let's start with a simple breakdown. So slowing gastric emptying means food stays in the stomach longer before moving into the small intestines. Tirzepatide activates GLP-1 receptors, which naturally slows stomach emptying. This isn't accidental. It's part of how the medication works. When food moves slower, your blood sugar rises more gradually. Insulin response improves. The brain receives a stronger fullness signal. They say it takes about a half an hour without this medicine for your body to send a signal from your stomach to your brain to tell you that you're full. And that's where most people, and where for, most of my life, I've done myself wrong. I'll eat a massive size meal and then really feel stuffed or, hit that sugar crash or that food coma, they call it. And so giving ourselves time without the medicine is hard. But with the medicine, it's like someone came in overnight and literally put a switch in my brain and turned off the switch that said, hey, you're not going to be hungry any longer. So this is one of the main reasons weight loss happens and why I've seen drastic weight loss as far as 25 pounds so far in the last 2 months. But the bigger question is, what else does this affect in the process? So pro number one, we know that it's improved blood sugar control. When food enters the intestines slower, glucose enters the bloodstream slower. That prevents large insulin spikes. And over time, lower insulin levels reduce systematic inflammation. One of the key things I want to talk about today is inflammation. What are the effects of life on Tirzepatide when it comes to inflammation in the body? So high glucose in your body means you're going to have high inflammation. High insulin is inflammatory. So by reducing the glycemic volatility, gastric slowing may indirectly reduce total body inflammation. That's metabolic science. That's not hype. That's truth. That's factual. Number 2 is appetite regulation. Reduced overeating. So a lot of you know that I'm in sales. I live on the road. I am constantly in and out of accounts, businesses all day, every day, pitching what I do for a living, which is I sell food. So I'm always trying to find ways to lower food costs. But I decided to stop in a restaurant yesterday and have lunch at a pizzeria. Typically, I can down 3, 4, 5 slices of pizza without Tirzepatide. But on Tirzepatide, my body has taught me not to overdo it. 1 slice is enough. And so I was having this conversation with the guy behind the counter, and he was overweight. He had a gut just like I used to. And I still have a gut. I mean, it's a slow process of losing weight here. And we were talking about, I said, hey, not to be mean, I know you want to sell me more slices of pizza, but, 1 slice is going to do it for me because the truth of the matter is I'm on an injection and I'm losing weight. And he's like, oh, I've heard about it, those injections. How does that work? And I said, well, to be honest with you, it slows your emptying. Obviously you're going to have side effects to that. Food's going to stay there. You're going to feel a little bit more nauseous because it's going to ferment a little bit longer. It's not going to just release and digest and release out your colon or your small intestines. But what it's also going to do is it's going to slow your gastric from emptying. And that's going to cause other side effects like heartburn. When he's like, oh, well, I've lived with heartburn most of my life. I said, yeah, most of us have. And it doesn't mean it's good for us. Acid is, a powerful thing. It's what breaks down our food. But having it stay in our stomach is not good. And I know from experience that tomato sauce in general is just not good because it's high acidic. And I struggle, if I have acid, like an acidic tomato sauce late in the evening, right before bed, I know I'm going to wake up with acid reflux. And usually how that happens is I'm just laying down and all of a sudden, it just like literally sprays into my esophagus lining and it hurts. I got to wake myself up. I got to take an antacid, which is an Alka-Seltzer. It seems to work best for me. Put it in the 2 tabs and just filtered water and let it fizz up. And then I chug it down and that seems to reset the acidic effect for me. Some people like taking the pills. I don't like taking those pills. I just think that they're just really bad for you. So try to take something as close to natural as possible. Alka-Seltzer seems to do the trick. But getting back to it, appetite regulation and reduced overeating. When your stomach stays full longer, you often eat less. Less snacking means fewer ultra-processed foods, fewer inflammatory triggers, fewer gut irritants. For someone like me who has dealt with proctitis flare-ups for probably the last few years since my colonoscopy, overeating or inflammatory foods can be a trigger, and eating less frequently may lower total inflammation exposure. And that's what I'm curious to know about. That's what I'm researching, and that's what I'm sharing here today on Life on Tirzepatide. But here's where it gets real interesting. We get to pro number 3. So possible anti-inflammatory GLP-1 effects. GLP-1 receptors are not only in the pancreas, they're also found in the gut and the immune cells. Some animal studies show that GLP-1 receptor activation reduces inflammatory cytokines like TNF alpha and IL-6. In a mouse models of colitis, GLP-1 agonists showed protective effects. So is this medicine doing the same for me? Now, this is important because human ulcerative colitis data, ulcerative colitis, inflammation in the colon, is still very limited. But mechanistically, P1 signaling appears to reduce, according to the evidence, it appears to reduce inflammatory signal pathways. That doesn't mean it cures IBD, but it suggests potential anti-inflammatory benefits. Pro number 4 is it reduces mechanical irritation. So less volume passing through the colon, fewer bowel movements. Yes, absolutely. Those are things that I've noticed in the last 2 months. I don't go number 2 as often. Potential reduction in friction. We got to talk about the truth here. And so what happens is, you get constipated, you push too hard, you start tearing, and then you start bleeding. And if you're going to the bathroom often, I've often wondered over the years since being diagnosed with it, am I doing more harm than good? Because I went to a doctor and they told me that I went to a GI doctor after my colonoscopy, and he told me, there's no cure to this. Of course, there's no cure. Now, whether I believed him or not is, something to be reckoned with. But the reality is, he told me, he's like, The only thing you can do is put a suppository up there twice a week or twice a day. And I was thinking to myself, twice a day, that's A, it's an inconvenience, and B, twice a day. I mean, does that medication lower inflammation, or does it provide more money for you as a doctor? Because I'm buying now prescriptions every single week. I tend to try to stay away from the doctor side of things. I want to heal my body from the inside out. I've learned that back during COVID, the start of COVID, and then slightly post-COVID, and I lost 67 pounds, and it was all from just eating the right foods. It was all from counting my calories. I was on a diet program called Noom, Noom. Check it out. It's a really great resource. But I was counting my calories and I was logging everything, and I was just eating cleaner, healthier, more intentional eating. And I didn't have any flare-ups, had no flare-ups on with my proctitis. And for the first time in my life, I realized, you know what, maybe this could heal. Maybe I could do it from the inside out by eating the correct foods and trying to stay away from things that were causing inflammation. So, once we get back to the reduced mechanical irritation here, this is where your question gets very real. If less food volume reaches the colon, then less stool forms naturally. For someone with proctitis, frequent bowel movements can irritate, we just talked about this, already inflamed rectal tissue. Slower gastric emptying, slower intestinal transit, potential fewer moments. Food's not processing as fast. I'm not having to go to the bathroom number 2 as often, which means I'm having fewer passing moments that could cause irritation or tears. And naturally, now the body begins to start to heal. That's my theory. Less mechanical irritation may allow tissue recovery time, but this is highly individual. Again, we're digging into the research here. That's the purpose of this channel. Dig into the research, share what's working, and share the truth. Share factual base truth with this community. Because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health coach. I have no certifications behind me to back this information up. It's just, again, me basing it off of research. But with everything you learn about being on Tirzepatide, I have personally learned that with every pro, there's a con. So let's talk about a few cons. Con number 1. Constipation risk. On the flip side, if transit slows too much, constipation naturally happens. Harder stool can equal strain, which could increase rectal pressure. And this is sort of true. I've noticed that I'm not forcing myself to go. I try to allow my body to go naturally if I need to. But what I've learned is that sometimes, there is a little bit of bleeding. Not as severe as it was prior to starting Tirzepatide, but I've noticed fewer opportunities in the flare-ups. They happen. I was told they would always happen for the rest of my life, but I am, again, not from a doctor's perspective, not from a health code perspective, but from my own perspective, I can share with you that I can only hope as the inflammation comes down, as I start losing the weight, as my levels start normaling out, and as I continue just down this journey, taking fiber as often as I can, trying to eat high fiber foods, trying to get more water in. That's my biggest weakness, is not drinking enough water. I drink a lot of caffeine, but not enough water. That naturally this could potentially heal my colon or cause less flare-ups. So again, harder stool, that could happen from being constipated. Straining, that's one of the things. I think they say that people spend too much time on the toilet. I hate bringing up the word toilet at number 2, but it's the reality of life. We all do it, right? And we need to talk about it more often. Spending too much time causes strain, and strain causes issue on the rectal pressures. Someone with proctitis, straining can worsen inflammation, can increase the bleeding, and it can trigger flare-up symptoms. So while reduced frequency may help some people, constipation can absolutely make inflammation worse. And this balance matters. So the second con I want to talk about is altered gut microbiome. When food sits longer in the gut, bacteria have more time to ferment. We talked about that in the beginning. Slower gastric emptying. Food's going to sit there. It's going to break down. It's going to continue to break down. It's going to continue to ferment. This can increase gas, bloating, and change the microbiome composition. Gas, yes, here and there, not as much as, prior. Bloating, I don't feel bloated because I'm not eating as much. Microbiome composition, I think for every person, it's going to just change from person to person. But Microbiome plays a major role in inflammatory bowel disease. We don't know yet whether tirzepatide possibly or negatively shifts the microbiome in IBD patients long term. Research is still ongoing. Tirzepatide has not been fully clinically researched to the point where we know everything we need to know. It's only going to come out as more and more people put this injection in their body. And I'm not saying that clinical trials haven't been done. There's just not enough evidence yet to show whether it's going to reduce inflammation overall. The hope is it does. Con number 3, nutrient absorption changes. Slower emptying can affect how fats are digested. GLP-1 medications are associated with increased gallbladder issues in some patients and changes in bile acid signaling. Bile acid influences inflammation and colon health. So again, benefits exist, but physiology is complex and it varies from person to person. Hey, if you're getting value out of today's video, I'd appreciate if you hit that like button. It really does help position our content more in front of people searching for similar information such as you. And it brings more people to our community that are searching for things about tirzepatide. Like button really does go a long way. Of course, if you have any questions, put them in the comments down below, but please remember, I do need to say this. I need to make sure I emphasize this. I am not a doctor. I'm not a health coach. I'm not a dietitian. I'm just your average guy who takes tirzepatide in between everything else he does in his life, and he shares the results. Everything that I'm learning here is my own personal opinion, and the results may vary. So I just want to make sure I emphasize that because, I don't want you to come here thinking, if you take tirzepatide, your life's going to drastically change. It very much could, but it very much could be very different in the sense of, the results. So comments, for me, it's all about community and surrounding myself around like-minded people. The purpose of this channel is to build a community around like-minded individuals of people searching for everything and anything related to tirzepatide. And if you got a comment to share, and already people have begun sharing in some of my other videos, drop us a comment. I love the opportunity to read it. I love the opportunity to, take a moment to respond. And of course, have that back and forth dialogue. So always check out the description for additional show notes. And, again, I know I've said this, but I'm going to say it again. If you want to come along for the journey and follow my journey, and maybe it inspires you to take the same steps that I'm taking today, consider hitting that subscribe button. So slide number 9, is a big question. Does slowing gastric emptying heal colon inflammation? That's what I wanted to learn about today. And let me be direct. Does slowing gastric emptying cure proctitis? No proven human evidence says that. Does tirzepatide reduce systematic inflammation through improved metabolic control? Yes, strong evidence supports that. Could fewer bowel movements reduce mechanical irritation? It's very possible. Could constipation worsen rectal inflammation? Absolutely. The answer is not black and white. The answer is it's going to vary from person to person. I've noticed that I don't have as many bleeding effects as I used to before tirzepatide. It's still there. It still shows up from time to time. Doctor was right. The flare-ups would be there, but constipation is part of the side effects of being on tirzepatide. So it brings me to my final point, and this is a personal perspective, and it's responsible advice. This is my personal perspective. It's not medical advice. If you have proctitis like I do, there are things you need to watch for. Stool frequency, stool consistency, straining. That's the biggest thing. Pushing causes straining. Let it come naturally. If you can't go, learn to listen to your body, learn to just stop, don't force. Take fiber, stay hydrated, monitor your bleeding changes. If constipation appears, address it early. Again, hydration is key. For me, I struggle with hydration because I am constantly trying to stay alert and awake, and I hate the taste of water. I've tried the water drops. I've tried flavored water. I've tried everything. And somehow I like to always levitate towards carbonated sparkling water, or it gives me that bubbles effect that soda used to give me. And I'm not saying I don't have soda from time to time. I try to stick to the zero stuff if I have it, right? So that I'm not getting the sugar side. But again, water is your best friend. We've always heard it. Our body's made up mostly of it. Fiber, take a good fiber. I have a very good fiber that I would recommend that anyone would take. It's not something you can get over the counter. It's something that I get from a buddy of mine who used to work for this company. The company's called Advocare, and it's their fiber line. I'll put a picture of the product on the screen here so you can see it. But it's a yellow box, comes in unflavored citrus and peaches and cream. I've never had the peaches and cream because I am allergic to peaches. I've never had the unflavored side. The citrus one is pretty good, but this stuff thickens pretty fast. So you put it in water, you stir it in, and you chug it down. It's not something you drink slowly. This is the stuff that seems to naturally control my appetite, but it also is a soluble and insoluble fiber made for everyone's gut, and it's remarkable. It's really good at helping me go to the bathroom more naturally without having to feel like I have to push. So if I'm feeling really constipated, and I probably should be doing this more often than not, I would take this. This is what I would recommend to this community. Not a sponsor. I'll put a link of my buddy who's registered with this. And if you want to support him with an affiliate link, you could just click on it and, it goes, a small commission goes to him. But this is truly remarkable stuff. I've tried so many different fibers. Some fibers actually make constipation worse for me. This fiber seems to work the best for me, and I would highly recommend it. It is a little bit pricier than your traditional fiber, but you get what you pay for. And so, like I said, I've had good experiences and bad experiences with fiber. This is the stuff that seems to work for me best. So again, talking about constipation, if it appears, we need to address it with hydration, fiber, if we can tolerate it, gentle movement, magnesium if a doctor approves of it. But Tirzepatide may lower systematic inflammation through metabolic improvement. If colon healing still requires, colon healing still requires proper IBD management, physical oversight, individual care. This medication is not automatically a savings grace, but for some people involved, improved metabolic stability may create a better inflammatory environment overall. So I end with this. Slowing gastric emptying isn't good or bad. It's powerful. And like anything powerful, it depends on how your body responds. And everybody's body will respond differently. So the key thing here is to monitor, to adjust, and to constantly stay informed. If you go to the homepage of Life on Tirzepatide, you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see one of my biggest educational platforms is food service education. I've created that over the past 3+ years, the recording of this video. And I can tell you, I've helped so many students from around the world and country get the information they're looking for to help them pass an industry certification. Education is everything. Staying informed is everything. You can listen to the doctor's advice, or you can listen to the people who aren't paying the doctors, but are actually doing the lifestyle of Life on Tirzepatide. And that's why I titled this channel Life on Tirzepatide, because that's literally what I'm doing. Every single week, I put this injection in my stomach, somewhere in my stomach. I haven't tried any other area yet, not my thigh or my arm, but I put it in my stomach, and then I share the results. Am I a lab rat? Possibly. But you're going to get the raw emotional feel of what Life on Tirzepatide is truly like, from a person who is not a doctor, a health coach, a dietitian, any of those things. You should never replace medical care with internet hope. There are good doctors, I believe, out there. I believe there are doctors out there that care about only one thing, and that's their wallets. Find yourself a good doctor. The doctor who I go to see has changed my life. She truly does care about my overall health. And the last time I was there, I stepped on the scale and she's like, well, I guess the medicine's working. And if the medicine's working, your levels are naturally going to come down. I had high levels of triglycerides. I was borderline a walking heart attack waiting to happen. And I'm so grateful. She's a saving grace. I will give her the biggest thank you letter when I lose all this weight to say, thank you for pouring into me. Thank you for caring for me. Thank you for showing me how to lose weight. And then it's up to me to manage that through diet. Once I slowly back down from this medication and eventually get off it, learning what I'm learning now is only documenting what I need to do in the future. So a couple of evidence strengths that I talked about hopefully you've got value out of it. We talked about blood sugar reduction and metabolic inflammation. Got a lot of strong evidence on that. You research it, continue to dig into it. GLP-1 anti-inflammatory signaling. That's human data. It's moderate, but it's emerging. The more people do it, the more we're going to learn about it. Direct healing of ulcerative proctitis. It's not clinically proven, but we can only hope based off the research of today's video that it's going to bring down the flare-ups and prevent the issues that cause proctitis. And if constipation works, and we learned today a little bit about if constipation worsens rectal inflammation. It's established. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Don't use this as your last hope. always check with a doctor. I just don't really understand. People are just, what are they saying? Colon cancer is it's on the rise right now. People are getting it more and more. There's always that concern. And trust me, I live it every single day, wondering if I'm going to catch it. And all I have to do is just be more intentional. Be more intentional with my learning, my educating. This is powerful information for me because as I share it with you, I'm constantly reminding myself and keeping a documented record of it to go back in the future. So guys, I enjoyed this video and I love sharing this stuff with you. And I look forward to building this community and sharing more information. And of course, sharing the updates. Obviously, week 7 produced no results, but usually this is the second time this has happened. The first time it happened, the week that followed, I lost a lot of weight. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. Have a great day.